Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Mark Ennis, a.k.a. Shark, the PA announcer and DJ from your Savannah Bananas, and you are watching the Legends on Deck podcast with hosts Brian Koss and David Condi.
Welcome to Legends on Deck podcast, and this is episode 114. And as you can see, normally it's me and Brian. Brian's to the right of me or the left of me, however your screen is. And then we have our guest, but Brian, unfortunately, is not available today. So I brought on Vincent Stoll. He's one of our young, exciting writers on the website. He's been with us for about a year, and he was in college, and he ended up graduating from the University of Virginia University, correct?
West Virginia University.
West Virginia, sorry, I mixed that up, with a degree in sport and venture media. So we had him for a little bit. It was all about baseball, but he kept telling me, he had a love for basketball, but for a long time we just weren't doing anything else but baseball. And this past few weeks we decided to go beyond the diamond, and we felt like it was an exciting thing to do because obviously there's so much excitement in basketball, football, like now the World Cup. So there's so many other sports that we can kind of touch on and share with. So I wanted to do this episode to bring Vincent on, kind of introduce him as our basketball guru. We've been having a lot of conversations recently about the offseason, the season. I mean, to me, this was one of the most exciting NBA seasons I've seen in a long time. And it has to be, obviously, because I'm a New York Knicks fan. And they were able to, as you see behind me, win the NBA championship this year. The playoffs were amazing. But then, I guess the real season starts in the offseason when they get ready for the new season. So Vincent is kind of going to school us a little bit on what's kind of been going on. All of the different free agents, the trades, everything that's been going on with the basketball world, which is very exciting because I've been listening to a lot more radio on basketball, and I've been learning a lot. Just kind of expanding my knowledge of just not just baseball, but more of basketball and other sports. So I'm gonna hand it over. I'm his wingman today, so I'm gonna hand it over to Vincent. We're kind of take this ride with him, and he's gonna kind of share with us kind of what's going on in the basketball world.
Well, I appreciate the introduction, David. Super honored to be here. This offseason has been one for the ages. I mean, going back to memory, this may be the best offseason so far in maybe a decade. I mean, as long as I've been covering basketball. Been a super exciting offseason so far. Pretty much started right after said New York Knicks won the championship. We kind of hit the ground running. Obviously, the big move, Giannis Antetokounmpo getting traded from Milwaukee to the Miami Heat. It was a package that consisted of Tyler Hero, Kalal Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kasparis Jonas, and 3 first-round picks.
I'll
Quite a
give it to you
haul.
first of all because I can't name all those names, so you did a very good job with that.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
who do you think got the better of that deal? Do you think that the Heat really got stronger? And not because you're a fan, but do you feel like, what Giannis is bringing to the table is going to be something that's going to kind of get them back on track?
Yeah, so obviously, like as you said, I am a big Miami guy, so I was super pumped about it. But looking at it from, an unbiased point of view, I think it really worked out for both sides. I think if you look at Miami and what they've wanted to do, I mean, they're all about championship aspirations, from their front office, Pat Riley, Andy Ellsberg, down to Eric Spoelstra, their head coach, and on to the players. They've been a win now team, but they've been stuck in kind of the mediocre spot of the NBA for the past few years. Pretty much the end of the Jimmy Butler tenure, even after he got traded. So this was a really good move for them in the sense of they now have their 1A championship piece. I know Giannis has kind of had some injury problems over the past year. There's been some question marks on whether he can still be that guy. I believe he still can be. He's 31 years old. He's an MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year, a Finals MVP, an NBA champion. This is still a top 3 player in the world, if you ask me. So having him come on, pair with Bam Adebayo, who is another all-star, one of the best defenders in the league, I think that front court pairing is going to be great for Miami. Um, whether they can fill out the rest of their roster, that's to be seen. They've done a little bit of work, which I'll allude to a little bit later. They still got some room to grow, so there's no doubt about that. But I really, really like the move for them. And then in from Milwaukee's point of view, it was just kind of time for that reset. Obviously, with Giannis being there for the past 13 years, they haven't really made a deep run since winning that NBA championship back in 2021. And it was just time for a breakup. I think we all kind of knew it. You know, they weren't really going anywhere, so to say. They only won like 33 games last year, albeit Giannis being injured for the most part. So for them, you know, getting players like Tyler Hero, who's been an all-star, Jaime Jaquez Jr., who was one of the finalists for Sixth Man of the Year this year, Kilal Ware, who's one of the young up-and-coming centers. He's a 7-footer who can space the floor and defend the rim. That's very, very valuable in this league. Along with 3 first-round picks, you know, one of which was the 13th pick in this past draft, who turned out to be Nate Amen. So I think that'll be a great pickup for them as well. So they got a lot of young guys who can come in and contribute, as well as some future first rounders. So, like I said, I think it really works well for both sides and what they want to accomplish.
Well, with Milwaukee, I mean, me watching as much basketball probably as much as I watch soccer, but I keep up with certain things. You know, I'm pretty understanding of who's where, and the teams are pretty good. As you saw the run that San Antonio did with the young ball players, so Milwaukee's thinking young. They
Mhm.
probably need that one star to kind of maybe a veteran to kind of lead them along. But if they're gonna go young, you just never know. You get hot at the right time. You get into the postseason. Who would have thought the
Right.
Knicks would have won 15 games, or even though they have the roster for it, but who would have known that they would have taken off like that? So I think watching San Antonio, the young studs that they have over there. If you get Milwaukee with a bunch of young studs, anything's possible. And they're in the East, so they don't got to worry about San Antonio unless they get to that point.
Right. Although the East is getting tougher, though. The
Yeah.
East is getting tougher. Um, that and So obviously the offseason got started with that Giannis trade. That kind of set the wheels into motion. But ever since, you know, we've had multiple big moves. I'd love to point out Kawhi Leonard going back to Toronto, where he won the 2019 championship. I think we all remember that one. Uh, that was a package including Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, and I believe a couple of first rounders and a couple of second rounders. That instantly puts them right there in the mix in the Eastern Conference as well. Everyone's kind of talking about the Giannis move and the Jaylen Brown one, which I will allude to a little bit later. But Toronto's got a squad, you know, Bixen Kawhi Leonard, who, albeit he's had a lot of injury problems over the past few years, ever since really joining the Clippers. But he's coming off his best regular season, arguably ever. You know, he was an MVP candidate this year, probably a top 10 player in the league this season. So pairing him with Scotty Barnes, who was an all-star, Colin Murray Boyles, excuse me, who was rookie this year, showed a lot of promise. RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly. I mean, this is a very good squad that they got, and I'm excited to see what they can do moving forward. You know, I think they're going to be a real threat to the Eastern Conference this year.
So where did the Raptors finish this year?
The Raptors, they were the fifth seed, I believe. They lost in the first round to Cleveland
Mm.
in 7 games, which I was actually at game 7 in Cleveland
Oh yeah.
watching. And I will say, Toronto really gave them all they could handle. I mean, thinking back, they were up double digits in that first half. They really had the game. Unfortunately, just wasn't able to close it in the second half. I think kind of a lack of veteran leadership and kind of that playoff closer. But that's what you get in Kawhi Leonard. So as long as he can stay healthy, you know, he's still one of the premier defenders in the league, can create his own shot and create for others as well. I think look at them to make a run this year.
Awesome. So do you
Uh,
feel like you had another top trade that you think is on your list?
Well, I mean, now that kind of brings us to the one that just happened a couple days ago. Jaylen Brown to the Sixers.
Hmm.
Um, that's been a whole story point this offseason, pretty much since the Giannis talks. So for those who don't know, it was primarily Boston and Miami as the top two finalists for Giannis. Obviously, Milwaukee chose to go with Miami's package over Boston, which was Jaylen Brown and I believe 2 first round picks. So even after that, the Celtics were still continuing to try to move Jaylen Brown, which was a little bit surprising to me considering the season he just had. Uh, Albeit, I mean, they didn't have as much playoff success as they'd wanted to, but obviously they felt the need to go in a different direction. So a couple days ago, they decided to trade him away to Philadelphia for, I believe it was Paul George and two first round picks. Um, an interesting move for the Celtics, so to say. Obviously, their front office and Brad Stevens has a great reputation. They usually hit on a lot of these moves. This one, I will say, is an interesting one, and we'll see. Only time will tell to see if it really works. But I think if you're Philadelphia, you walk away from a move like that, being like, "Wow, we got Jaylen Brown coming off an MVP caliber season to go along with Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Joel Embiid when he's healthy. Uh, that's a squad right there. I mean, that's probably one of, if not the best starting five in the Eastern Conference. So look for them. I mean, they're right back into title contention now. Boston, on the other hand, I'm not going to say that they got a lot worse. I mean, Paul George is still a good player, but he is 36 years old. He has had some injury concerns over the past few years. And I think if you watch him, while he still can deliver, it's just not quite what it used to be. So if I'm them, I'm looking at Jason Tatum, and now this is kind of going to be one of his first times where he is the real, the real number one. When he got drafted, he had Kyrie Irving there. After that, he obviously had Jaylen Brown. Now this is really set in stone, Jason Tatum's team. So I'm looking at him to see what he can do for them and to see if this move really works out for Boston.
So I know you and I discussed off air a couple of days ago on I thought maybe it was a player dump type of thing that kind of dropped him. As you said, Paul George is not is not a young cat. He's older. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
How many years are going to get out of him really in his good years? Even though I believe he had a good playoff run. So basically, do you believe that it's kind of the Boston was just kind of wanted to move him to wherever they can get rid of him type of thing? That he wasn't truly someone that they're willing to maybe take a chance with and maybe keep around. Like in other words, take anybody we can get at this point.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was an interesting move. I feel that they probably could have gotten more had they gone in another direction. I think it really boils down to just two things after doing a lot of research about this. Number one is money. Jaylen Brown is still has 3 years left on his deal, worth about, I believe, $183 million. Um, but he is extension eligible now. So he's eligible for another 2 years. I believe it was $140 million extension. That's quite the commitment to put on a player. So I just don't think that Boston was willing to pay that. And then there have been some reports about people within the Celtics, analytically not thinking he was their best option. That I just my perspective I disagree with. I mean, I think if you watch him, he's a player that, can do everything you need him to do. He creates for himself, he can shoot, he defends, he's got size, and he's younger. He's, I believe, 29, 30 years old, versus Paul George, like I said, who's 36. So like I said, interesting move. Um, but we'll see, have to see. Only time will tell.
So the only thing interesting, I mean, we'll jump into the free agent signings later, but just kind of interesting that you say Tatum is going to have to be his team. He's going to have to get everyone else around him, especially with Mitch Robinson signing there, and I think he's
hmm
looking for big minutes over there to become a center. That's going to be very interesting. Not only if he can do it, even though I've seen the rumors around, or even the not even rumors, his own words out there that people are going to be surprised by what he brings to the table. But it's gonna be interesting to see how Tatum brings that all together, because
Right.
he can't be the guy that leads the charge over there, especially with I believe the point guard is Pritchard,
Yes.
and they're thinking that Pritchard can be a game changer if given the right opportunity. So sometimes it takes a star name to leave to someone else to step up. So you don't know.
Right.
Boston, I think they might have I could be wrong, but who knows in this game nowadays? How teams going to be. They could sneak in as a play-in. Maybe make the postseason. If they do, who knows at that point? Just in other words, it would be a win-win for them if they did make the postseason, even losing after losing Jalen Brown.
Right, and I'm glad you brought him up. Mitch Robinson was another key addition for them. I believe signed a 3-year, $47 million deal with Boston.
Yeah.
That's a good pickup for them. I think you yourself being a Knicks fan, you've seen what he can do. Obviously, he has some limitations, offensively.
But I think that's going to change. If you were to watch, I've seen videos of him even when he was first drafted. I don't think you lose your game. Obviously, if you're not, if you know, I don't think you lose your game. But I did read something recently that said that what they wanted of him wasn't what he wanted. In other words, that we don't need him to
Mhm.
do that. We just need him to defend. So now, if you get a
Right.
team that needs a little bit of offense from him, you never know what that's you never know what he's going to unleash at this point. Especially he has something
Right.
to prove.
And I think that's a good point. I've obviously seen the videos of, him working out and shooting threes, and a lot of fans would wonder, what, seeing these videos, like, why doesn't he do that in the game?
Like is it AI?
Yeah. But what people don't realize is, in the NBA, not everyone, everyone can do that, but there's roles given, and players need to adhere to some roles. So it's not, totally out of the blue for them to say, we know what you can do, but what we really need from you is, in his case,
Stop blocking,
defending the
rebounding.
rim,
Yeah,
shot blocking, rebounding the ball, offensive rebounds, that kind of thing. That's what they need from him. Uh, I don't really think much will change if I'm being honest, because I think if in Boston's case, you still do need that. Obviously, they have Neemias Queta, who just signed an extension, so it'll be interesting to see who they decide to go with in their starting five. But if I'm Boston, I'm looking at him and saying he's one of the best shot blockers in the league. Usually, he's among the top big men in rebounding the ball. We've seen what he can do defensively, and like the foul shooting needs some work. I think we can agree
it
on
just needs
that.
an arc. It just
Yeah.
goes straight. A little arc
It
action.
does, but I mean, I think if you're him, you need to look at yourself in the mirror this offseason and be like, obviously he got the money, he got the contract, which is well deserved.
Yeah,
He needs to just get in the lab and shoot a lot of free throws. 28%, that just can't happen.
yeah,
Not in this league. That's virtually, we talked about this, that's virtually being unplayable in, clutch time.
yeah,
So if I'm him, just, you know, then no one's asking anything too crazy. Just get in the gym, get in the lab, work on those foul shots, and get that number up to something respectable. Maybe 60, 70%, something
yeah,
like that. And you never know what can happen. I think that would raise his value exponentially.
yeah. Um, I don't hate on the guy. Listen, he was with us for a long time, with 8 seasons. He won his championship. He did his part. He wants to take care of his family. This might be the only, you talked about this, may be the only window he has. So at the end of the day, you got to take your shot. I think when the Knicks owner for saying that they're not going to second apron just kind of sealed the deal for him. But at the end of the day,
Hmm.
it's a business. He got his ring, and now he has to just go out there and prove himself. Before we
Right.
jump into anything else, I want to ask you a question. Maybe a little curveball to you, but kind of explain to us what the like. Okay, a player has a contract, and then he comes up for an extension. I've seen that with Brunson. So, what is the window to get an extension? Is it a time frame? Is it a certain amount of years? When are they allowed to get an extension?
Usually depends on the player and when they sign. It's kind of case by case basis.
Okay.
Uh, I mean,
You
like I
mentioned
said,
Jalen Brown might be looking at an extension.
yeah,
Um,
he signed, I believe, 2 years ago. He signed his initial deal, I believe, 2 years ago. Like I said, it's really just case by case basis. For example, I was reading a little earlier today about Giannis, and he's eligible for an extension 6 months from now, I believe, after the trade. The trade became official today at 12:01. So he'll be extension eligible in 6 months. But yeah, usually with contracts, to answer your question, it's case by case basis. But because of the new rules they've implemented now, they're with the supermax and whatnot, they're trying to get they're trying to instill more loyalty into players, not just hopping from team to team, which is why they've implemented the Supermax where, a player can sign a 5-year deal with his current team versus only being able to accept a 4-year deal with another team, if that makes sense.
So if they sign a contract for 5 years, it's not like they can go in for an extension. They have to wait till the 5 years are up. They can go with is it within a
No,
certain
it's
time?
usually, I believe, after, like I said, this is very case by case basis. But it's usually, I believe, around halfway through the contract.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they teams can extend them if they want to.
Yeah. And now they also the NBA because I know MLB has opt out to they have now been putting it into play with a lot of contracts. Have the NBA also put that into some of the contract opt outs, or it's not part of theirs?
Yeah, they do. A lot of contracts you'll see nowadays have either player options or team options.
Yeah.
So, for example, you know, if someone has a player option if they sign a 4-year deal, but with a player option after year three, that
Yeah.
means at the end of that year, the player can decide if they want to play out the rest of their contract and finish it,
Hmm.
or if they want to opt out of it and look for a new deal, whether it's with the same team or with another team.
It's almost like the
Uh,
transfer portal.
yeah, kind of. Um, but with the team option, it's kind of the same thing, but it's the team's decision.
Yeah.
That means it's their decision whether they want to have you opt you like keep you,
Yeah.
or they can kind of release you from your deal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was
though that's
wondering if
kind of the two.
yeah I was wondering if the NBA and the MLB because we're coming up on a possible lockout year in the MLB after the season because
Right.
they're not on the same page with everything. So I was kind of wondering if the contracts kind of run the same way, if they have their own little rules and the way they do it. But let's kind. I want to have one talk with you, and that's going to be LeBron James. But I want to leave that towards the end because there's a lot to say about that. But since we
Yeah.
touched on Mitch Robinson, kind of pinpoint to me. Let's talk about some of the other free agent signings that have kind of stood out so far in the NBA. I mean, obviously, if I'm going to pick the Knicks, they re-signed they re-signed Shamet. They re-signed
Mhm.
Alvarado, which I'm glad that they brought that bench guys back because those are our key guys off the bench. Obviously, you lose a player, you get those guys back. But can you share anybody else you feel like stand out for you as free agent signings?
Yeah, to start with the Knicks, they did sign Andre Drummond,
That's right.
who
Oh yes,
is a
exactly.
1 year, I think, $3.9 million deal. That, I mean, in terms of backup centers, obviously losing Mitch Robinson, that's a blow.
Hmm.
But Andre Drummond, this is a guy who used to be an all-star, one of the premier defenders in the league, rebounder, shot blockers. Kind of was Mitch Robinson before Mitch Robinson, so to say. He's obviously not what he was back then, but he's kind of expanded his game. I mean, now if you watched him last season with Philadelphia, he's shooting corner threes now, which
Yeah, he
I
was
can
scaring me
remember.
in the postseason.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching him back in his glory days with Detroit, where he had troubles from the free throw line as well. I mean, they were doing the hack a Shaq on him. So, like I said, he was kind of Mitch Robinson before Mitch Robinson.
Yeah,
Um, but that's a great get for them. He still can produce off the bench. He'll give you 15 to 20 minutes a game. He may not score a ton, but he'll still rebound the ball. He'll still defend the rim. And if you're the Knicks, that's really what you need. I mean, you have Karl Anthony Towns who will, create for you and Jalen Brunson and all those guys. You just kind of need that rim protector in the middle off the bench. So that was a good one for them. Tim Hardaway Jr. to Miami, 1 year, $6.5 million deal. That's a move that I'm particularly very excited about, um, both on the court and off. For those who don't know, Tim Hardaway's father is a Heat legend. He played for the Heat back in the
we
90s.
I know that all too well because he hit a lot of
Yeah.
those shots against Steph out of Boone.
Oh
I think it
yeah.
was won by half court towards the end. I'm like, oh my god, stop.
Oh yeah. The Knicks and the Heat used to have some battles in those days back in
Yeah.
the 90s. So Tim Hardaway Jr. has been rumored to Miami for years now, just kind of like I said, because of that connection to Miami from his father. He'll actually be wearing number 10, which is his father's number, which has been retired since 2001, I believe.
So I'm assuming you got permission.
Yeah, so his father, yeah, originally his father said no, but
Really?
obviously he changed his mind, so he'll be wearing his father's number. I think that's really cool. But from a basketball side, that's a great pickup for them. Like I said, with Giannis and Bam, what they need is shooting. Like they need a lot of shooting around them. So, and with him, he's a guy who averaged almost 14 points a game last season, shot almost 41% from the three-point line on like 7 attempts. That's very, very good. That's the ideal player you need around Giannis and Bam, giving them space to attack the rim. I want to mention Kelly Oubre to the Indiana Pacers. I believe that was a 2 year, $17 million deal. This is another guy who can come in immediately and contribute. He's a guy, I believe, how tall is he? He's about 6'8". He's got like a 7'2" wingspan. Um, He's a willing defender. He can shoot the three, averaged about 14 points a game last year, shot nearly 37% from the three-point line. To a team like Indiana with Halliburton coming back, Pascal Siakam there, Zubac there, Aaron Nesmith, the list goes on. This is another wing that they needed to come in and immediately contribute to them. And then I
So
want to mention
so
what,
wait,
go ahead.
before you go on, because the Knicks have not gotten past the Pacers, and the Pacers have been their nemesis, does this make them stronger? Does this make the Pacers stronger and a bigger task for the Knicks?
Yes.
See, I didn't want to
Now, here,
say
What I will say now, obviously, like I said, Halliburton's just coming back from the Achilles injury that he sustained
Mhm.
in Game 7 of the finals last year. So obviously, we have to see, how he comes out
Who
this
brings
season,
his
how he
A game?
looks. But don't sleep on Indiana. They've still got a very good team there, and that's why I said the East is getting a lot tougher this offseason. Um, and Kelly Oubre definitely helps them. And then I want to point out Dean Wade to Philadelphia. It was a 4 year, $39 million contract. This is another guy. He comes from Cleveland, by the way. This is another guy that can come in and contribute. And he's one of the players I wanted to mention because if you're just looking at the box score, or just his season stats, you may see him and be like, oh, he averages 6 points a game. Like, you know,
That's a
that
lot of
doesn't
money for
mean
6 points a game.
but what I will say is he's one of those guys is you kind of have to watch him play to really see all his value. He's a 6'9" forward. He can stretch the floor. He's very good on defense, especially on the perimeter. So you implement him into a lineup with Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, and Joel Embiid. He provides spacing for them. He doesn't really need the ball, so to say. He can let those other guys work and do their thing. And he's a great guy, like I said, to have on the perimeter. Defending, he's got size. If they wanted to, they may be able to run him at the center if they want to go small. And I believe he shot 36% from three last season. So he's a good shooter. So, like I said, the stats don't really say much, but watching him play, you'll see, if you're a Philly fan, you'll see the value he brings to your team for sure.
So before we get to the top free agent on the market, probably because we know who it is, we'll talk. We'll spend a little bit our last couple of time with about him. Who are other free agents that you feel like are out there and probably won't be out there for too long, but are really gonna make an impact on our team? Anybody stands out to you?
Hmm. That's a tough one. A lot of the free agents have been going off the board. There is one in particular who I'm very curious about. Actually, two in particular. I'll make this quick. Number one is Jalen Duren.
Hmm.
Um, he's coming off a season where he, was an all NBA type player, averaging, 19 and 10 for Detroit. Obviously in the playoffs was not his best showing, but he's a young player, and I think that was kind of just some growing pains for him. He's had a bit of a contract dispute with Detroit. He's wanted a max contract, and appears to me that they haven't been willing to offer that. And he obviously felt some type of way about it, felt a little bit of disrespect. and there was rumors that he wanted to leave and he wanted to go to Sacramento or the Lakers. Excuse me, sorry. Obviously, the Lakers just did a signing trade with Utah to get Walker Kessler. So that option's out now. I haven't really seen much about him with Sacramento as of late, but if you're Detroit, I really want to see what they're going to do with him because he is a restricted free agent, meaning he can't just up and leave whenever he wants. He can sign a contract with another team, but because he's restricted, Detroit can still match the offer. He
And he
hasn't been
gets to stay.
offered. Yeah, so that's kind of the difference between unrestricted and restricted. Unrestricted, you can just go wherever you please, and the other team can't do anything about it. Restricted, it still gives your team the ability to match whatever another team offers you. Now, whether they do is another story, but they can. But he hasn't been signed yet, so I'm really keeping my eye on that situation. And then another one actually just happened a little bit earlier today was DeMar DeRozan. He uh he was just waived by Sacramento. It was clear that, while he's still a good player, Sacramento's going young. They're looking to rebuild. Their timetables just don't really match up anymore. He'll generate interest from a lot of teams. I've seen Miami be one of them. I'm sure there will be a lot of other suitors for him in the mix, but I'd like to see that situation because he's still a guy that can come in, produce starter level minutes, give you 18 to 20 a game. He's usually very efficient, one of the best mid-range shooters in the league. So I'd like to see where he ends up, whether that's Miami or somewhere else. But yeah, those are kind of the two right now still available that I have my eye on.
So, if you don't mind, let's jump into the big fish in the pond. LeBron James, obviously, everyone's. I feel like, which he hasn't done it, and I know you're a Heat fan, but I really wasn't all about the movie drama announcement to go to Miami. Everyone's waiting, excited when he went from. That was just
Don't worry, no one was.
that was crazy. So I see he hasn't done it this time, so he's kind of being low key, a little more of a veteran mindset. Um, I mean, I think what is it? Miami, Cleveland, and there's another team in play, I believe, that are kind of everyone's talking about. He can trick everybody, end up with the Knicks, which I
He
don't want him
can.
with. I don't want him with the Knicks. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I feel like we have what we need, and it's just like, hey, we really won a championship, and I think that's kind of what he's been saying. But kind of give your input on what's going on with LeBron, what the thought process is, and what do you think he should actually do. And don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't be biased because you're.
No, 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 no bias. I haven't been biased this whole time. No bias here. This is definitely the big fish right now, which it kind of just alludes to his greatness. Just let me add that he's 41, going on 42 years old, and he's still holding up the market as a free agent. Just wanted to throw that out there. But there's been a lot of rumors with him. His agent Rich Paul does a podcast with not Maverick Carter, Max Kellerman, excuse me, and they had a whiteboard the other day of just potential teams that he could go to.
Oh, that was
There's,
his whiteboard.
yeah,
I thought that was because Landry Shamet shared it on Instagram, and I thought that was his. I thought he was just messing around. I didn't realize that came from the.
nope, that was Rich Paul. It
Oh, okay.
surprised me too, but there's been a lot of interest with teams. I think the ones that were most notable to start was Miami, Cleveland, and Golden State.
Mhm.
But there's been other teams that have come into the mix, most notably Philadelphia. After making that Jaylen Brown move, I read that they immediately got on the phone with Rich Paul and expressed their interest in LeBron. A team like Denver, a team like Minnesota, who just traded for LaMelo Ball to pair up with Anthony Edwards. Those are some realistic teams. I think obviously this is just me guessing, but I think there's about six teams that he realistically could go to. Um, like I said, Miami, Golden State, Cleveland, Minnesota, Denver, and Philadelphia would be my guess. That's just me speculating, but what I will say is he's been around for a long time and he knows exactly what he's doing. It's been reported that he's in no rush to make a decision. And like I said, he's been around. He knows he knows what the game plan is, you know. He's always been kind of private, you know. I think with a lot of these other guys, you know, you always hear rumors about, oh, so and so's going here, so and so's going here. LeBron and his team, you know, they're very intentional with what they do. That being said, if I had to guess where he's gonna go, I would probably say Cleveland, just because
Go
it's
home
so it's so storybook. Especially what could end up being his final year. He hasn't come out and said that, but a lot of us think that, you know, it most likely will be his final season. I think ending it in Cleveland is the most storybook and would fill some needs for them. You know, Cleveland's still got a very good team in the Eastern Conference, and adding him would kind of jump them to right, you know, top one or two favorites, I would say.
But what he has to,
But
but do you think he has to also think about, okay, he goes to Cleveland, what why didn't Cleveland get over the Knicks, right? Because the Knicks are going to be the team to beat in 2027, right? 2026,
yeah,
2027. The champions are going to be the team to beat. Everyone's going to have to gun after them. So you have to go to the team where you feel like you're going to get to the next level. Can
right.
just break down Cleveland for a second. Does Cleveland have the tools, if you add LeBron to it, to really get them over the hump?
I think they do. Um, you know, obviously their backcourt of Donovan Mitchell and James Harden is one of the best in the league. Although James Harden has did not have his strongest playoff run this past season. I think you obviously as a Knicks fan saw that. Um, what he does bring is another guy on the wing who they need to go along with Mobley and Allen, who's has that's an anchor front court right there. What I will say, excuse me, sorry, I feel like Cleveland still needs one or two pieces to roster. I would love to see more defense on the perimeter with them, especially, you know, asking a 42-year-old LeBron James to anchor their perimeter defense doesn't, I don't love that for them. Um, But like I said, I mean, there's a lot of good there that he brings. Still averages over 20 a game, you know, still can be that closer, still can run your offense better than almost anybody in the league at this point. So I do like it for them. I think he fills a lot of holes with Miami, who, you know, like I said, have Bam and Giannis in that front court. They really need a point guard, which LeBron can easily play the point guard. I think that would be beneficial to him and to the Heat. A team like Denver, LeBron with Jokic is basketball IQ off the charts. Um, that is probably two of the smartest players to ever play on the same team. I would love that fit for both LeBron and the Nuggets. I think that immediately puts them right back in the mix in the Western Conference with San Antonio, with Oklahoma City. Um, him with Minnesota would be electric. Him and Anthony Edwards. That's a box office duo right there. That's something I would really love to see as a basketball fan. Um, Now how he fits in with LaMelo, I don't know. That's a little bit more interesting. But a lot of teams that could get him, you know, I don't anticipate there will be a decision in the next couple days from what I've read. But I think as of right now, probably Cleveland's the favorite. I think if you look at, you know, odds online, a lot of them are saying Cleveland is the favorite. And like I said, it just seems the most poetic to me.
So, like you said, he'll take he's for what I've heard. Sorry, he'll take the veteran minimum. He just wants to play with an opportunity to win again.
Hmm.
Obviously, thinking about the teams you mentioned. Of course, I only have the Knicks in the back of my head because you hear rumors or they might be an option, they may not, whatever. But it's kind of figuring out who does he want to pair up with, who does he feel the best player is going to be able to pair up with, where one is going to get along, two, the ball is going to be shared equal, not equally, but in the sense that they're going to be able to gel, right? This may be his only year, so it's almost like it has to happen this year coming. So you want him to make the decision so he can kind of get him the ball. Obviously basketball season will start for a while, but so who fits the bill to be the perfect matchup with LeBron? I thought with the Lakers, with Doncic, that's going to be a great matchup there, and I thought it was, and it didn't pan out. Obviously Doncic was hurt a little bit of time, but who do you feel out of the teams that are being mentioned is the best overall fit for what he wants to accomplish?
I think out of all the teams I mentioned, I think Miami would be a great fit. Like I said, him running their offense, that's really what they need. They need a kind of a true facilitator to kind of come in, run the show along with Bam and Giannis. Like I said, I think a team like Denver, he fits in like a glove. That's the beauty of kind of LeBron is you can kind of put him almost anywhere and he's smart enough to figure it out. Um,
But what
but
team do you think is overall? What is the player you think they will get in that court and just make amazing music together? I mean, granted, just it'll be a great season for that team. What's the one team? Just pick one team. Don't s-
one
if it's,
team.
yeah. And I know he could run Miami, but he's gonna gel with certain players. Where do you see him fitting, gelling the perfect fit? Because they also mentioned Golden State Warriors, right? And you got to think about, I don't know if Draymond Green is going to resign, but you got guys he's played with before in the tournaments, the Olympics and stuff with Curry. So Curry could feed him I think Curry's one of the best out there, obviously, right? With feeding the ball and playmaker. But if you had to really if LeBron came to you and said, "Hey, guy, where am I going? Where do I got to go? Tell me the one team where he has to go." Tough decision, but you're on the
That
spot.
is a tough decision. Golden State, ideally, in terms of fit, might be my answer. My only aversion of why I'm not going to say them is just because they're in the Western Conference, and I don't know if they would have enough. Especially they have some injuries right now, Jimmy Butler and Moses Moody, who both like most of them won't be available for the start of the season.
Mm.
Um, so I don't think they have enough. That would be a great fit, but if I had to pick one, I'm gonna go Denver. I
Okay.
think he fits in like a glove there. He could let, Jamal Murray play off the ball some. I mean, Nikola Jokic is probably still the best player in the world. He does everything you need him to do. Having a guy like LeBron come in on the wing, bringing more veteran leadership to that team, who's already won a championship, by the way, against my team, unfortunately. But I think he just fits in like a glove there. And Denver's already got a good team, a very good team that can compete. But I think they're just a piece or two short. I think having him come in and kind of being that extra piece at this age, that'll put them over the top, in my opinion. I think if Denver gets LeBron, it's San Antonio, Oklahoma City, and Denver. Those would be my three picks for the Western Conference.
Okay. Well, Vincent, I mean, this has been a great start to our Beyond the Diamond section, which is going to be the basketball section of the website. I'm excited because you've reignited basketball in me. I mean, I followed it back in the day in the '90s when I knew more ball players. It was like it just seemed like every team you knew almost everybody in the teams. It was just amazing. And I think basketball's evolved a little bit since then. It's not the same game as it was. It's just more shooting now than defense. And I was a defense. Not to say there's not defense, but back in the day, Wemby wouldn't be pulling the stuff he's pulling in the NBA Finals. He would have been out. he he would have been on the floor most of the time. The way the defense with Detroit and the Bulls and the Knicks were back in the Heat were back in the day. So, but I'm excited about this. Obviously, gonna get this podcast out quick because LeBron can make a decision at any moment, and But at the end of the day, it's going to be great for basketball. You pointed out there's a lot of great um, changes that have been made this year with teams and players going different places. So I think NBA next year is going to be even more exciting than it was this year. It's going to have the stage as well as it's after the baseball season, so I'll have something to look forward to since baseball is going to be locked out. Probably next summer, we'll have more things to talk about how the season went for the basketball. But I appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing. I'm excited to see more, kind of you taking the reign with this and running with the basketball side of Legends on Deck and really getting, bringing a voice to the website on this sport. It's an amazing sport, It's growing again. The popularity it's really exploding again, and there's a lot more ball players, coming from overseas that are bringing excitement to the game. Yes, Wemby's overseas, but I actually liked him before the NBA Finals. After I saw how he played and what he got away with, I'm like, nah, that's not.
You're
I'm not
not
a
you're
big
not
fan.
alone in that opinion. I've seen a lot of people share that opinion as well.
So, we'll see. Maybe he'll get a veteran in place and kind of straighten him out. But this has been the Legends on Deck podcast, episode 114. A little bit different than normal, but different in a good way. We're going in the right direction. So, Vince, I appreciate you coming out tonight and kind of giving us your input on the basketball world. And I do look forward to bringing you on for more shows in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.